Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's Sybil. I am Sybil Wilkes. The gang is all here in our places, and I was going to say sunshiny faces, but it's snowed upon faces, from what I understand about the weather. And you're holding on for Med, who is out trick or treating, the world's oldest and biggest trick or treater, I dare say. Thank you, Cameron. How are you?
Cold,
How cold is it?
very. It's very cold here in Chicago. You would have thought that it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, but it's just cold.
And this being a couple of holidays ahead of Christmas, you got some snow and you got cold weather today, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah, and it wasn't like petty snow, just little sprinkles here. It was definitely snowing.
You got real snow on
Yeah,
on on as Damon said, on the trees where the leaves are still on there.
right. Yes, Damon said earlier, trees are very confused in so many words.
Oh, how you doing, Damon?
I'm doing great. I fled Chicago to come south, but not south enough not to
Right.
avoid the 30-degree temperatures. I am in Indianapolis. I'm about to do a spooky comedy jam. Uh,
Ooh.
yeah, and I'm doing this for this. It's a black-owned establishment, the Jewel Event Center, and the
Mhm.
lady is a very nice woman. And I said, okay, I'll drive to Indianapolis on a Tuesday and hope
Mhm.
people come out. And meanwhile, all my cousins like, I got grandbabies. We can't come to the show. We got trick or treating.
I was gonna
And back
say that's your family territory, isn't it?
Yeah, you find out who your family is when you show up
Okay.
on a Tuesday.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
One of
How
my
did it?
cousins was like, "Why you wait so late to tell us?" It don't matter when I told you. I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get to it, Damon. So, because our express yourself question, our question of the day, is based upon something that you told us not too long ago. So, I want to get to that. But before
I'm
we do, of
here.
course, it's what you need to know time. And Cameron is our political contributor for the What You Need to Know newsletter. That is absolutely free. If you'd like to go to sybilwilkes.com to sign up for the newsletter, we'd love to have you. And you'll have great stories like Cameron had in today's issue. Thefts at our favorite local stores are costing us. What is going on, Cam?
Yeah, Sybil, retailers are sounding the alarm on theft. Big retail companies, Target, Walmart, Walgreens, they're all lobbying Congress for harsher sentences on thievery
Mm.
because a new study done by the National Retail Federation said that the 1.4% uptick in retail thefts equates to over $100 billion in losses. Now,
That's
statisticians,
1 percentage point equates to $100 billion.
yes.
That's how much money they're bringing in.
Right, exactly.
Wow. Okay.
That
Which
that's
brings
the
me
number
to
they're giving their insurers.
Right. Yeah, that's true, David.
okay. So that brings me to my next point that statisticians across the board are thinking that the numbers are skewed insofar as that this $100 billion in losses only equates to about 2% of sales.
Wow.
So they may be exaggerating a little bit here. Uh, the the thing that the thing that makes it a bit disconcerting is that when retailers use theft as an excuse to close stores, who are the first
Hmm.
stores that they close? Ours, right? And in the pandemic, we saw that a lot. They used the looting as an excuse to close a bunch of different stores. And now they're advocating for harsher sentences. So I'm
So is
putting the
that
pieces
federal?
together.
If they're going to the federal government, they're asking for federal sentences. So they does that mean they're bypassing like the local, like the district attorneys who are not bringing charges against people?
Yes, in big corporate fashion, they went all the way up the food chain and
Mm,
they want to see harsher sentences across the board for petty theft.
wow.
Well, what they
Wow.
Yeah.
need to do is put their cashiers back on the register. The theft is not
Okay.
those flash mobs that are stealing big, bundles of things. It's the people that ring up a pack of Kool-Aid for a T-bone. So that's
And
where
they
the
slide
losses
the
are.
T-bone into the bag. Yeah.
Yeah, they need to bring people back to those registers, man. Most stores now have one cashier and 90 self checkouts, and that's just not going to work. You can't give the public that type of leeway, in my opinion. But go ahead, Khameron. I didn't mean to interrupt your story.
No, I mean, you're right. And they're also not looking at, like, there are grand theft retail rings that are all inside jobs that are happening at the warehouse level, not even at the storefront level.
Doesn't even get to the store.
Right. So you have people who are organizing just entire boosting schemes of like wholesale goods at the warehouse level, and they take it out on the consumers.
Meet me out by the trunk, and then
yeah. I remember one time I had returned an electric scooter to UPS, and this electric scooter costs a lot, like $1,500, and of course a couple days later UPS lost the package. What had happened was that someone said, "Hey, I got this scooter in my truck. Do you come get this thing?" So it's not even us.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, because I mean, $100 billion is only 2% of their revenue. Then come on, and nobody's stealing $100 billion worth of merchandise out here. And if they are, they're selling it for like 10 million. So it really.
Right.
So I'm hoping that there are going to be a couple of senators that are going to be like, say the senator from New Jersey, say, "Really, brother man, come on, you can tell me, come on," because I live in Jersey. You going to tell me, yes, Senator Booker, I'm telling you that these are the numbers, and no, really, you come on, because I pass by and people. Senator, I got something, in the trunk for you. It's crazy, Damon. It's just absolutely bananas.
Yeah, I mean, of course, stores have closed, like in the senators' backyards.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, mind you, I did know a few boosters back in the day, but they only stole like silk dresses and leather jackets. I don't know if that added up to 100 billion, but they would all come through the barbershops and hair salons. This is ridiculous. I mean, they're talking electronics.
Right.
I mean, how you gonna steal a refrigerator?
It's not an easy push. But back in the day, it used to be tube socks and some batteries, and now the clientele has increased.
Meanwhile, they locking up the deodorant and the condoms.
And the water, Damon, the water. Yolanda and I were in Baltimore. She went into a CVS to get water. It's locked up.
That's crazy. First of all, the fact that we're even paying for water as kids, that seems ludicrous.
That's bad on us, right?
Yeah. But it's the world we live in. I'm sure they'll figure it all out. Retail will not go away in capitalist society. They'll pass the losses on to us, and that's why they're overinflating their losses so that they can justify higher prices
and justify closing in our neighborhoods.
And all of this is probably to offset the minimum wage increases as well.
Exactly.
Corporate is going to always win in these circumstances, and the small guy loses. So y'all stop stealing and looting. Bring up your steak if you buy a steak, or just eat chicken.
You sound like the Chick-fil-A ad.
Right.
But here's the thing, Khameron, and you make an interesting statement under the why you need to know. Could this be a new mass incarceration era on theft? Tell people about that part of your discussion.
Yeah, I mean, as Damon was saying, that like corporate is going to lobby Congress enough to get what it is that they want. They'll probably impose a mandatory minimum of like 5 to 10 years on theft. And what they're going to do is they're going to over police the black stores. So many teenagers coming in stealing a pack of M&Ms or whatever are going to end up going to jail and just being fined ridiculous amounts for these petty theft crimes.
The 3 strikes law.
Right. Yeah. So I'm wondering if this lobbying is going to lead to another mass incarceration on theft. And we have in Illinois that they've cleared out the prisons for non-violent offenders, but that's just them making room.
Yeah.
So they have the room in Cook County. I'm just hoping that we take a critical look at these statistics and really hold the corporations accountable for how they're spending the data.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Plus shoplifting as a kid is a rite of passage.
Getting
Yes.
that pack
That
of
should
now
already
later.
be, that should be factored into their profit and loss statement. I mean, who didn't steal a Snicker bar or eat a whole bundle of grapes before you get to the register? I mean, that's part of life.
I will confess that my first life act of my life of crime began as a toddler on a tricycle, riding into the store on the tricycle, taking a box of Cheez-Its and riding out,
Oh,
and taking them home to my mom because Cheez-Its were her favorite. So,
your heart was in the right place.
yeah, it was. It was.
You meant well.
And my little wrist could not fit the security there. So
Yeah. And that's
it just
back
kind of
when
slid
you
out
can
of the
you,
cuffs. Yeah.
yeah, that's back when you can let your kid ride a tricycle up to the corner store and
Yeah.
steal some cheeses from the liquor
Right.
store.
And not have to write a letter for please give her a pack of cigarettes and a pound
Right.
of bologna. That wasn't me. That was somebody else. But I do remember those days.
Yeah.
Um, so check out the other stories in our newsletter. Of course, once a week we have Celebrity CPA to the Stars. That is the great Katrina Kraft. And she asked, is it a good idea to have a Roth 401k, and looks at the pros and the cons of a Roth 401k as opposed to a Roth IRA. So take a look at that as she explains that to you. And Coy Malone, our social justice contributor, tells a story, and it's not one of those stories that can only happen in Dallas, but here's the deal. A man by the name of Sylvester Hayes, that's Silvester. He spelled his name with an I, not a Y. 27-year-old single black father of 4 children, was headed out one morning to get his kids breakfast. He was stopped by Dallas police. And as a result, this was in October 2021. As a result, he was beaten and tased after they mistakenly identified him as a domestic violence suspect with a similar name. It was Sylvester with a Y
Mm.
and not an I. And
Mm.
according to the federal lawsuit that Sylvester with an I filed in federal court this week against the city and multiple police officers, he was wrongly arrested after police realized their mistake. So they realized it, they beat him, they tased him, and they still arrested him and without letting him go. And he said that the arrest ultimately cost him his home and his job.
Wow.
But and a man of 4 children, a single dad with 4 children, no place to live and no job. What does that mean? And they are responsible for this. And so it's a horrific story, but hopefully he will find some justice as this federal lawsuit goes forward.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
just unbelievable. It's one of those things you just why and instead of owning up to it and then saying, sir, we're sorry, and go about your way. No, that wasn't enough for them. They had to he said that they ran his driver's license and she said, F this, we got the wrong guy. They knew it.
Mm.
They knew it then. And realizing their mistake, they discussed whether he was a felon and what charges they could bring against him, even though he was not the guy.
Wow.
They were looking to make up something.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I've had something similar happen to me. There is another Khameron out there with the CA instead of the KH, who has like 3 felonies and is like wanted for murder 3. And
Oh
so like the FBI had like sent me something in the mail and they're like, hey, would you like to prove that this is not you? And I was like, yes. Yes, I would.
yeah, I think I should.
Yeah, I had that happen to
Wow.
me, and it was a guy who well, actually, we share a nephew, so he was my brother-in-law,
Oh,
so to speak. But he got stopped for something, and he said he was me. And then
oh
it
my
took me a
God.
couple of years, and I got stopped for traffic, and I had a warrant. And I'm like, for what? And they took me in. Luckily, by me being a comedian, and the place was right next door to All Jokes Aside, the police department, they knew me, and it was like they gave me the information off the record, like we're not supposed to tell you, but this who burned you. And to this day, I still have an FBI file with all of his stuff connected to my stuff. So when I went to just get a work permit to go to Cayman Islands, it came up again.
Oh
So
my gosh.
yeah, and then until you prove it, and now he's deceased. So like, I got to get his death certificate. They put all the
Right.
onus on
Yeah.
you
Wow.
to
Yeah.
go
Oh my
clear all that
goodness.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Damon, I know that you have a lot going on. And tell us once again what the name of the club is where you're going to be.
Tonight it's a black-owned event center. It's called the Jewel Event Center, and Miss Cynthia Bailey is a very nice lady who used to work
Real
with
Housewife?
the. No, I knew that. No, she used to work with the Madam C.J. Walker Theater here, and
Oh,
I've
okay.
known her
Yeah.
for years. And so she has her own event center. So she wanted to try something, and she wants me to do something recurrent on a recurrent basis here. So this is like a little trial run. I have my cousin Eustace, who is a band leader. I got him doing the live band. I got Kevin White and Amber James performing, and I'm just here on the love because this is my mama's hometown. And that
Nice.
thing starts at 7:30, and it's 7:17.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So with that in mind, we're going to rush and do the question of the day. Okay.
no problem.
I will tell you why, and I want you to chime in real quickly before we start this, and hopefully Med will join us as well. But this is about customer service, and
Hmm.
Damon told us a story about calling up to a restaurant near his house, well, it's a fast food place near his house. And Damon, you take it from there.
Yeah, it was a Harold's Chicken in Homewood, Illinois. Yes, I'm saying names and locations.
Okay.
And I'm calling now. I'm placing a huge order because we're doing a big thing for my son. And, it's not just trying to get a three-piece. I'm getting
Right.
trays of food. And I called, and the man answered the phone. Harold's, I'm like, yeah, hello. He said, I'm here. What you want?
Yes. Sounds about right.
I'm here. What you want? He said, no, he said,
Yep.
I'm listening. What you want? What I want? What
Mhm.
I want is better service. Goodbye. Nothing. So they lost about a $300 order because of the way their people answer the phone. So it's very important for business owners to call your own establishment anonymously and see what your customers' customer service experience is so that you can know to monitor your business. I've been doing that ever since I've been doing shows. Like when we would do shows at the Holiday Inn Matson, I would call the front desk and say, is there a comedy show there? Maybe ask, hey, do we have a comedy show? I'm like, it's right there. There's a flyer on the front desk, ma'am. You know, but I always do my own customer survey checks like that. But it's
Right.
just, and it's a shame that these are our community businesses because we implore each other to support Black-owned business
Right.
or Black-run business or Black businesses with Black employees so that we can have economic, support. And they give you the bull service. So that's my story with that. And I don't have to rush beyond the question. I can stay at least till we finish this segment.
Okay. All right. Cool. Let me just say, so this is our question about customer service. Can you, and folks that are watching and listening, we'd like to hear your examples of good or poor customer service, and also share what happened with the TikTok food critic, Keith Lee, and shared his bad experiences this week in Atlanta, no less. So I'm looking forward.
And Cardi B co-signed that they are
Yeah.
terrible in Atlanta. Like you must not want our business, and the staff is bougie, and why would you go through all of this? But Atlanta's a different planet. So
That's what everybody says, and this restaurant thing, it involved, the old lady gang, which is owned by Candy Burris and her family, other big name restaurants, even the Atlanta Breakfast Club. He ran them down for poor service. So, Cameron, as we are waiting for people to talk about their experiences with customer service, what about you?
Yeah, this is really hard because the bad customer service is what sticks out in your mind so
Sure,
much.
always, yeah.
So I'm really trying to give somebody some props out there. I do
Restaurants.
remember I had went to an African restaurant named Apio in DC, and it was my first time there. I wasn't familiar with any of the cuisine, but when I'm not familiar with the food or how it tastes, I expect a consultation. Like you should be, trying to sell me on the cuisine. And so, my server, I said, "Hey, I don't eat meat. I could go for fish. I like savory taste with a little bit of spicy,
Yeah.
and I want some plantains. What is it that you can do for me?" And she said, "Hey, we got this she called it a goosey. It's got like spinach in it. You can start with that." And she gave me just like the full 3-course meal. And afterward, she suggested a beverage. She checked back with me to to say that it was okay, like even after like the first taste. And I really appreciated that level of care for my palate.
Right.
And that kind of stuff is like what inspires me to suggest it and to come back afterward.
Right.
And it's very important that we highlight the people that do give good service, because good reviews don't get the sensational coverage, whereas bad news
We talk
travels
about
fast. And that's what
yeah.
I try to instill in my people at Riddles. It's like the owner, she's like, well, do you know how many great reviews we have? But yeah, but the two bad ones are the ones that will be like wildfire. So I want to acknowledge a young lady who works at the Lawrence's Fisheries
Oh,
in
one of my
Oh,
Homewood.
favorites.
nice.
I mean, it's in Olympia Fields actually, and it's
Okay.
not the main one. But she suggested different options to save me money. When we got there, she was friendly and polite. And if I had her name right now, I would drop it. But if anybody's ever in this area and you're in Olympia Fields, the Lawrence's, the lady on the register and on the phone is perfection.
I used to love some Lawrence fisheries, but I don't know about those on the south side. We used to have to travel north a ways to do
Yeah, we
that.
did too. But it's
Yeah.
Lawrence. Now it's Lawrence's Fish and Shrimp. My
Oh,
bad.
excuse me. Okay. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
so Keith Lee is a favorite on TikTok, and we'll talk about that. Yolanda, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Janet Ferguson on Facebook. I called to schedule an appointment with my PCP, and I'm assuming that's my primary care physician. And the rep told me about the shortage of doctors and that I would not be able to get an appointment until the end of November. Now, I called in September. Of course, I vented a little. She told me, I don't want to hear that. And then she would not give me her name. To her manager, I went. I had a recent friend tell me about an encounter he had with taking his mother to the doctor for a serious procedure, and the nurse was horrific in her treatment of this woman who's 80 years old. And her son, it's like they're both nervous, probably, in thinking about what is to come. And this woman just gave them nothing. She was nothing if not rude and dismissive in her treatment of them before they even got to the surgeon. And it's just and in situations like that, like, I don't have to give you my name. Well, in this case, but I'm talking about with Janet. That is just the worst. And if
Yeah.
you can't tell the people, and he did go and tell the doctor what happened. So I'm assuming we lost Damon. He's gone off to do his job at the Jewel, but and not the grocery store. We're talking about an event center in Indianapolis. Go check him out tonight if you can. But it just burns your butt, that people can be so rude, and there's no such thing as customer service anymore.
Yeah.
And Cameron gave us an example of that. But for the most part, people don't care. And they want
Yeah.
to tell you how miserable they are, Cameron. Or, in this one case, Keith Lee told of examples of restaurants in various cities where they wouldn't even pour water in the glasses until the party was complete. What's it going to cost you
Wow.
to fill the water glasses?
And well, that's what happens when you have people that are really trying to be celebrities, but they're stuck in the
Yep,
job.
yep.
They moved to Atlanta to be a star, and then they ended up having to work, and they feel like they're just as famous
Wow,
as
yeah.
that mentality in Atlanta is really something different. And if you're working in one of those celebrity-driven restaurants like Candy's, then that's the type of people they probably hire. And if you don't want to do the job, don't fill out the application.
Yeah.
Keith
I mean, customer care is just,
and
I mean,
and actors, especially, like, they used to be the stories about, before they made it big, they worked at a New York deli, or they worked in a Los Angeles or a Hollywood restaurant or whatever, and people really acted like they cared about the people, that
right.
they were serving. They just don't, either they're not actors, or they just trying to get by and make some money till the next big thing happens for them. I don't know. Keith Lee went on a food tour of the city, racking up 82.5 million views across 9 videos as of today. The TikTok videos also received millions of views, and many online who identify as locals, and as you said, not necessarily locals, but those famous people who had been a part of trying to get some food in Atlanta. They praised him for highlighting the problems they say consumers face regularly, including strict rules, early closings. They don't do takeaways on the weekend. You can't get any takeout service in some of these restaurants on the weekends.
Yeah, well, don't. Well, that goes back even before celebrity driven. Any soul food restaurant that has good food has terrible service. It's just that simple. That's the law, right? They're gonna be rude. They're gonna be slow. It's always gonna be a problem. New Orleans is just as bad. Those people in New Orleans or the Bahamas, those are some of the places where you have the don't give a F work staff. Yeah. And they would like, if you're in a hurry, you're in the wrong place because, this is how this goes. But yeah, all the places.
There used to be a Chinese restaurant in San Francisco, and it was famous for their rude behavior towards the clientele. And I was like, why would I want to go there? If I did that, I could just stay at home and get.
Or you could go to the wiener spot here in Chicago where they will cuss you out.
Yeah, and people like it.
Yeah, y'all remember Ed? You remember Ed DeBevick's?
Yeah, that was another place. Yeah.
For the people that don't know around the country, this place they train their staff to be rude and obnoxious. Yeah. But it was with it was stick. It was like
right.
Yeah. But we would always take people there and not let them know first. Whenever we had out of towners, whatever, we would go there just so they could explain. Like, man, y'all about to They had to stop because it was like about to become a problem with certain people. Like, man, you ain't gonna talk to me like that. But that was you have to let people know that that's
it's like you're part of the show.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then they would dance on the tables and you would get it.
Right. Yeah.
Keisha Mitchell Brown I'm sorry, Keisha, if I keep saying Mitchell, Michelle Brown on Facebook. I had great service at an Italian restaurant last night. The food was tasty as normal, but the server was just excellent. She checked on us, was patient, and even brought back a side of extra Alfredo sauce without me even asking for it. That's what I'm talking about. That's
the way to a Negro's heart. Alfredo sauce.
Alfredo on the side. Yes, nothing like Alfredo.
We do our fair share of Alfredo in the hood, boy.
Stephanie Everett on Facebook said, I pay extra for great customer service. Publix and Chick-fil-A have very good customer service.
That's because Chick-fil-A's a cult.
Right.
It's all right. I won't go there.
That's the Scientology of fast food.
I can't speak to that. Not a customer. So he talked about the Atlanta Breakfast Club, which I'm not sure if this is akin to the one in Houston, but they said they were this was pouring the water until everyone was seated in the party, prohibiting add-ons to the initial order, and charging, check this out, $1 for extra butter.
Cute.
What?
Okay.
Butter costs, baby. Butter costs.
But what you gonna do? You gonna take the butter home and slide it in your pocket, and then just a greasy spot on you? Come on.
Now, in all fairness, for food service people, society as a whole has become much ruder, and people are becoming tip adverse because tips are placed in every scenario. So maybe the workers are not feeling appreciated because they don't get tips, but a lot of people don't want to tip because even when you buy a pack of gum at the gas station, they turn the register around with that question talking about, do you want a tip?
Right, add a tip, yeah.
Right, so that part.
You get a fill up on 9 and you want to know that I just pumped my own gas.
Exactly, you reached over here and got this cup of coffee at the airport and handed it to me, and you want 20%.
Right.
Yeah. So there's that.
Oh my gosh. This is crazy. Keith Lee also talked about the old lady gang, and then Candy Burris went online and invited him to come back, but that's not the point.
Right.
The point is they went. He sends his family in, and oftentimes an assistant or someone to go in and get the food and bring it out because he doesn't want to be recognized. And then he does his review.
Right.
So there's no takeaway. He was there for the concerts there in Atlanta this weekend. There's no takeaway. There was a 90-minute wait, and they had kids with them, and so it just became a thing, and so also the Real Milk and Honey posted a now deleted response to this review saying, "Who's Keith Lee?" Okay, all right,
Very
that'll
You
good.
get
don't
you
know,
very
now
far.
you know. And see,
Now you know.
a lot of times that's management is top down how the service
Hmm.
is. And Candy Burris herself is not the nicest person. When I met her, she was very standoffish. And this was in a situation where we were filming a scene for Real Housewives. And so naturally, I'm not some stranger off the street. I ain't expect her to recognize me from my career. But she was real, like, like I was bugging her, and I was just trying to get somebody else a picture with her. I didn't even want to take a picture with her little dusty butt. So I mean, what's a picture with Candy Burris gonna do for my life? So
When you got a
for her,
better than Candy in your life, yeah.
exactly. So come on, lady. I don't buy toys. I don't play with them.
Yeah. Okay.
And you ain't had a hit since since the '90s. So it's not necessary to be that way. And if the ownership is not friendly, then that trickles down throughout the staff, I believe.
Colby Smith on YouTube said Papado in Houston. This lady was so nice. She was going to show us around after she got off. Papado has some really nice servers. And I will say that even we were at a TGI Fridays not too long ago, and the young man was very nice and very, very helpful, very, like giving us almost like the extra Alfredo on the side,
But
for
let
without
me
even
jump
asking
in
for it.
when it comes to Papados in Houston. Papados in Houston has great service, but they got horrible security. That's the place where I went, where they broke in my car and took all my T-shirts and all my merch and my
All
luggage.
right.
Yeah, and the security gonna come in. Who driving a Malibu? Who's watching the Malibu, lady? She gonna tell me after they done broke the window and took all my luggage that somebody broke in your car. You're doing a terrible job with security in Houston's Papados. I don't know if it's the same location. They got great service, but they got horrible security.
And it is where fun meets festive. I just want to say that to the folks
Yeah,
there.
okay.
Yeah. Regina Glover
It's
on
where
Facebook said,
deductible meets payment.
For
I
deductible
try to
meets payment.
support,
Very
Regina
nice.
says on Facebook, I try to support Black businesses, but some establishments make it really hard with ridiculous prices and nasty attitudes. I won't
They
pay
do.
to be treated poorly. I don't blame you. I'm right there with you. Cardi B joined the Keith Lee discussion and said that you can barely order in Atlanta restaurants and that she has to name drop herself to get through to some restaurants. Roxanne Gay, the author, said she has been to one of the restaurants Lee ventured to, also shared her take on Twitter, now X, calling Lee's video a delightful adventure to watch. And Zachary Kirk, an Atlanta based food reviewer, said that his experience brought attention to the disappointment that residents feel every day. So it's not just Keith Lee
This
in
is not great news I want to hear before my
you.
sister's birthday weekend extravaganza in Atlanta because
Well,
I will come armed to the teeth with a very sharp tongue.
okay. And just say your name is Keith Lee and see how you get treated.
Well, and make sure you record your experience so we can, run it back.
Right.
Speaking of running, I got to go, ladies
You
and
got to go.
gentlemen.
Thanks
It's
so
been a
much for
great pleasure.
joining us and have a great show. And don't
Always
forget,
love.
Damon,
Yes.
Netflix, the people you want people to see you
All
on
the
Netflix.
Queens men. Also, Limblom High School. Boom, boom, swoop, swoop. We have a fundraiser for the STEM program for the students for Gen X
Oh,
this Friday at Riddles. 2 shows on Friday with Rob Stapleton, and he'll be there all weekend, and so will I. So make sure y'all come out. The Kappas are doing another fundraiser Sunday at Riddles. So this weekend is all about
Nice.
benevolence and philanthropy. So support.
Bravo. And you're doing a great job. Thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate it.
Holla,
And have a
y'all.
great show there at the Jewel.
The
Okay.
Jewel Event Center.
The Jewel Event Center, not the grocery store. Someone said to remind us that TIPS is an acronym for to ensure prompt or proper service.
gotta
Yes.
bribe people
Thank you,
nowadays.
Manuel. Manuel Murphy said that on, I think that was Facebook that he said that. Keith Lee is talking, continues, and says the restaurants really should be taking this as a lesson on how to improve and what to improve, because it really shouldn't be about Keith Lee coming to town. Oh, that is what another food critic, Zachary Kirk, I believe is his name, said about this. So
Yeah, but
those
Sybil,
who,
this customer care can't be taught. That's a
that's
character
true.
issue that you've got to suss out in the interview process.
That's true.
And you
And
you can't
he
be
has
so strapped for staff that you're just bringing in anybody.
he has given examples of where people who work for really good people will say, please come and give our business a try, because the food is good and our manager, our owner, he or she is really great and would love to serve you. And he has done that and then proved them right. And so you just never know who's watching. And as you say,
That's
Cameron,
true.
it's not necessarily something that can be taught, but in this day and age, if you can't teach this to people, they should not be in your business.
Yeah, not at all. I happen to be a level 10 Google reviewer,
Uh
so
huh.
every now and then I'll review a place. I don't, just like make a habit out of it, but if something impresses upon me, I will definitely take the time to shout people out and give them their props or not.
I'm not a
So
Yelp or a Google person looking to see what, the kind of service they give. And I've been with people who, like you, are like level 10, and it's been a disappointment. So I mean, you can't win or lose with these. Cameron, let's move to trending topics.
okay.
And it's the Senate hearing was held today. I don't know if you got a chance to see this on aid to Israel, and it was quite the show. It was
Hmm.
quite the show. A public hearing over the continued funding for Israel, repeatedly interrupted by pro-Palestinian protesters who took turns standing up and shouting over the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, as well
Hmm.
as the Secretary of Defense. And I don't know who disrespects Defense Secretary Austin, but Blinken was trying to make his case for the additional financial aid for Israel and Ukraine. And the Israel was the main focus for the demonstrators, who called for a ceasefire in the Middle East. And many of them in the audience had their hands, the palms of their hands painted red to indicate
Hmm.
blood on the hands
Wow.
of people. Uh, Blinken tried making his points, and at several points during his presentation, people would yell and get up, and then they would be, taken out at the chairwoman's insistence, and then he would go back to his prepared speech, and then somebody else. It was very choreographed and orchestrated,
Hmm.
and standing behind him and calling for Israel's retaliation in Gaza a genocide. And it seems, yeah, that there were breaks in between each interruption, as I said, but it was like, okay, so you're going to be in the back, you're going to be in the middle, over to the right, and so on and so forth. And then finally he got through his speech, and then Secretary Austin got a chance to. Anytime someone got out of their seat and raised their voice, they were escorted by the law enforcement officials. In the meantime, Cameron, Muslim Americans living in swing states are threatening to vote against President Biden next year as a result of what has happened in Israel and the
Wow.
fight against Palestinians. In
Hmm.
multiple battleground states that he won, even by thin margins in 2020, a growing chorus of community leaders say his handling of the war in Gaza and Islamophobia at home jeopardized his path to a victory in the Electoral College, with many Muslim American and Arab American voters saying they plan to either stay home next November or vote for a write in or a third party presidential candidate, or simply leave the top of the ticket blank.
Mm, wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the power of putting your vote to action when your elected official does something that you're not satisfied with.
Right.
Uh, I saw something very similar when Mayor Brandon Johnson convened uh, and wanted to put out a statement decrying Hamas and then supporting Israel, and that was also interrupted. I
Right.
expected a bit more from my mayor, just to acknowledge the harms, and then also try to encourage the country and the world to do a little bit better. And there are a lot of Muslim Americans staying in Chicago and in
Right.
Evanston, and I will not be surprised if they take this and they remember it come 2024.
Yeah, they will remember. You're right, and I'm surprised too, because just after the war began was when that landlord went in and stabbed to death a 6-year-old boy
Yep.
who was of Islam heritage, and his mother so many times that the little boy, as I mentioned, he killed him, stabbed him to death. The mother was injured so severely she could not attend the funeral services for the little boy. And I'm really surprised that Brandon Johnson didn't have that in his mind. But on the other side of that, a lot of Jewish people in the city council, as well as
Right.
business owners and what have you. So
Yeah.
um,
And I
it
mean, I can't help but be disappointed in President Biden as well. Last time we talked about this, I had predicted that President Biden was going to get Israel to stop the bombings so
right,
that we can go get our people and
right.
then let them do whatever that they want to do. But afterward, Israel ramped up on the bombings.
Yeah,
Uh,
and he probably, I think, from what I've read, Cameron, I think that he's made the calls to Netanyahu, and
mhm.
Netanyahu's probably like, "Yeah, you're right, Mr. President," and and sure, you're okay, and and just his voice means nothing. What they want
Yeah,
is the money.
right.
But you don't
Yeah,
give them money until they do something to bring an end to this so everybody can be released. So these people down in the tunnels, the hostages, can be released until everybody is moved to the north or to the south, wherever they want them to go in Gaza, and then go back to your fighting. But
right.
the number, I mean, 8,000 Palestinians
Yeah,
killed.
that is insane. Absolutely uncalled for. And I can't even imagine like what kind of person would just like bomb a country to dust,
Right.
reduce the whole thing to rubble, unless they have plans to acquire the land and build it back up again.
There you go. There you go. And from their Iran and other supporters of theirs, they probably do have the money to build up a new Palestine, if you will,
Right.
and do things if they can. However, this ends up, I don't want to see either one of them just blown to dust.
Yes.
But I would like to see some sort of rapprochement between them, and especially for the sake of the lives that are there. I know that there have been horrible charges about beheadings of babies, and the elderly not being cherished and regarded and taken hostage. But this is, I know war is hell, but this is not the way to do business. And
Yeah,
especially when
absolutely.
human lives are at stake. So, and here's the other part. So, if you're not going to vote for Joe Biden, are you going to vote for Donald Trump? And I
Yes.
don't think so, because Donald Trump has apparently, according to some news reports, has revived his plans to ban Muslims from entering the United States.
Uh-huh.
So then it is going to be leaving the name at the top of the ballot unchecked.
Yeah. I mean, this people are one of the largest issues that we're seeing nowadays is people coming into the country. People are leaning into this isolationism, um, this need to cut America off from the rest of the country.
Hmm.
But that's not the reality anymore. The reality is, if some, some incursion in Ukraine affects us all. Uh, when the United States is got its got its eyes on two wars, like scams go up
Right,
because our defense forces aren't screening these crank calls.
right.
Banning a group of people isn't going to help that,
No, definitely not. And but
especially when
that's
the border is like not secure. The border is in shambles right now.
and look at that, right? Shambles is a really good description for it, because nobody seems to be able to do what needs to be done, either side of the Rio Grande.
Hmm. Yeah. Well.
It's crazy. So meanwhile, back in
Okay.
back at the Israel ranch, alarming rise in anti-Semitic acts reported across Europe and the United States in the weeks since Hamas attacked Israel, striking fear into the lives of Jewish people. France, which has, I didn't realize, had the world's largest Jewish population outside of Israel and the United States. So you have Israel,
Hmm.
U.S., and then the country of France, has seen a surge in anti-Semitic acts since the began, and they say that over 200, the horrific attack has touched off a war so far that has led to a number of Israelites or Jewish people to be attacked, and they're trying to take steps to prevent some of these attacks. One man who owns a delicatessen in the heart of Paris's old Jewish quarter recently removed the mezuzah from the door of his home near the Eiffel Tower. This is a scroll of parchment that a lot of people put on the front doorpost, and it's regarded as a special and important symbol in the Jewish faith. But he didn't want delivery drivers or other passersby to know that his family inside is Jewish. And on the advice of his rabbi, he
Wow.
removed the mezuzah and took it down and moved it inside the house. And of course, we're hearing reports this week of anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. have increased nearly 400% in the days since the October 7th beginning of the war. Authorities are investigating online threats of against Jewish students at Cornell University, a series of anti-Semitic threats made against the school's community in online posts over the weekend. And the online messages have surfaced over the weekend, including threats to shoot Jewish students at the 104 West building, which houses their kosher dining hall, and messaging encouraging others to harm Jews, according to the school student paper.
Wow.
There are messages that are being put out there, encouraging people to do what would make Hitler proud.
No. That is a name that I wish would just be like lost to time.
Right.
Yeah. I had thought that like when Obama was elected, like we wouldn't hear about it anymore, but then Trump got elected and then it resurfaced it. Yeah. I mean this singular man has been brought up in like every era of history.
Right.
If I never hear that man's name again, I couldn't be happier. But wow, and like I'm surprised that this type of anti-Semitism is spreading throughout Europe because they really don't play that over
right
there.
In Germany it's illegal,
right?
And that makes sense, but it should be illegal everywhere, and it should be of course we don't have the history, but certainly we have history of discriminating against people. We put Asians into concentration camps during World War II. We had blacks held in slavery for hundreds of years, and so this the world is crazy, Khameron.
Yeah, I know plenty of like Jewish friends that are critical of Israel, that are critical of Netanyahu, and so you can't have that kind of mentality that you think that every Jewish person is subscribing to whatever his agenda is.
Yeah.
Like he only knows what it is that he's doing. But people are people. People are human, and like, don't you have something better to do? Like, go rake some leaves.
Or go back to your mom's, basement and start typing, letters of apology to people, because what you're doing is emboldening other creeps and maniacs and despots to do horrific things to people and call it justice. This isn't justice, and it's not your job.
Exactly.
It's not. It's incumbent upon, if we're going to be honest about it, it's incumbent upon Benjamin Netanyahu to bring some sense and civility. I know there's no such thing as civility in a time of war, but in order to, if you want the money from the United States, and you do want the billions of dollars that they are now trying to give you, although according to the new House Speaker, it's not going to go to Ukraine. But if you want this money, you've got to do something to show good faith.
Yeah, where's our bargaining power?
Yeah, where is it?
Yeah, Joe Biden's definitely no JFK when it comes to the foreign policy.
Or Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
Right, Jimmy Carter was the one that was able to bring the last real sense of peace to the Middle East, and that was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I do want to talk about. I don't know about you. I'm not watching professional football, and so my interest in football now is through the college game,
Oh,
and
okay.
also I'm no longer a Chicago baseball fan. Go Rangers! But Colorado football coach Prime Deion Sanders called on the NCAA to do something about the fact that his players and staff were apparently robbed this weekend, not only on the field but in the locker rooms at the Rose Bowl
Hmm.
during their 28-16 loss against UCLA. He said several of his team members reported missing cash and jewelry from their locker room and will make a list of missing items, hoping for reimbursement. He even suggested that the Rose Bowl should pay for it. He said, "Who robs the Rose Bowl?" Well, somebody came in and whatever the security was there, it sounds like somebody with Damon and his car being burgled while he was in a restaurant in Houston.
That's funny, Sybil, because FBI released a crime report the other day that while murder is down,
Uh-huh.
property theft rose 300%. So
How
people are
crazy
stealing.
is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
We be stealing. And so, I'm just saying as a person,
Yes, the royal we.
and as
Yes.
your story indicated, we pay the price for those thefts. So our
Yeah.
insurance will go up. Whether they are taking our catalytic converters from our cars or stealing the
Yeah.
property out of the car, we're going to pay the price in our insurance. But
Yeah.
in this case, um, it's not clear what role the NCAA would have in an alleged theft that occurred during the game, but Sanders wants them to have one in this. He said, NCAA, you do something about everything else. Um, do something about this one. And the NCAA has not given a comment yet. All that stuff should
Hmm.
be replaced. This is the Rose Bowl. It's the granddaddy of them all. And I'm sure granddaddy has some money. Grandpa should have some money to give these kids. I'm going to have a list made out of for these kids, and I know they're going to be truthful about what they lost, so we can try to get them back for them, get that stuff back for them. They may not be able to get the items back, but we should be able to reimburse. He said he didn't have any items stolen, but check this out. A camera worker had a significant amount of cash missing. What is the camera worker doing, leaving his money and his cash and other things in the locker room? If
Placing
it's your
bets.
camera equipment, you should be out there working and using your camera equipment. And why would you
Right.
put your money in the locker room?
Yeah. The perceived sense of security on college campuses definitely shocked me when I first got to college. How
Uh-huh.
people would just like leave their stuff everywhere and out. And here I am coming from like an urban high school. I was like, if I left my stuff out, it would be gone within like, so someone took advantage of that.
Yeah, for sure.
I bet they'll put locks on their
Life is
lockers next time.
different once you get off the Colorado campus and you're the big, muckety muck and superstar on the football team, although you're losing these days. They say that a private contractor is used for security at the Rose Bowl, and who was watching this is now the
Sounds like an
question.
inside job. It's
Yep.
got to be.
Yep, that's what I said too. So we'll see. A lot of people are going online once again and blaming the victims of the thefts for having things that were stolen, including necklaces. You can't blame them. I mean, that's their paraphernalia.
Yeah.
And assuming that someone is going to look after your stuff like that is perhaps naive, as you say, as other people have
I
demonstrated. But
know.
damn,
I know. My mom would tell me, "You better put a lock on your locker.
okay.
I don't care what everybody else doing, but I bought you a lock." All right, Mom.
Okay. Thank you. And that's where everything goes and lock it up and take the key. Yep.
Yep.
Let's move to entertainment. Another NBA legend has reached billionaire status. Forbes announced this week that Irvin Magic Johnson's personal net worth is now $1.2 billion.
Hey, welcome to the club, Magic.
Right. That's what Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Tiger Woods are saying as he has joined the Billionaire Boys Club. Magic Johnson played most of his NBA career in the 80s, which was a decade before Jordan's successful years in which he started making money. And of course, we all know about the Nike deal. Before LeBron James' golden years, and he's making big money, as well as Tiger Woods on the golf tour. So he has been credited with helping save the NBA, but he wasn't paid commensurate to what they
Right.
were paid in the 90s. He made which is not bad money. He made $40 million, or about $110 million adjusted for inflation during his playing years.
Yeah, but
Now,
like Steph Curry makes like 3 times that now.
so exactly. And LeBron James is going to have made $530 million by the end of this contract. That in
Wow.
2024-25.
Wow.
$530 million.
Wow.
Do the gazentas into that. 40, it's like, it's crazy. But he's built his wealth based upon his business acumen. The businesses that ventures such as minority ownership in the Los Angeles Dodgers of Major League Baseball, the Los Angeles Sparks of the WNBA, uh, uh, the soccer team, and most recently as a majority member of the guys that bought the Washington Commanders of the NFL.
Hmm.
According to Forbes, the biggest chunk of his net worth comes from his controlling stake. And this is really interesting. I didn't know that he bought the controlling interest in a life insurance company called Equitrust. He bought a
Uh-huh.
60% stake in the company in 2015, and
Oh.
that's where most of his money has come from. And
Oh.
he also has, of course, investments in real estate, healthcare, fast food. We know about all of the businesses, Starbucks and TGI Fridays and things like that, brought through Magic Johnson Enterprises. So he really made his money work for him.
Truly, yeah. I have a theory that like I mean Magic had to enterprise like all on his own. You know,
Yeah,
Michael had a great team that capitalized on him and
his
his
mama.
right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
um,
Exactly. And LeBron put all the pieces together, but I feel like Magic's place up there is long overdue.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm very happy for him. And it truly is. You may not call him a self-made billionaire, but he really did make this through a variety of business channels, and I'm very proud of him. Let's close out with the jewel today. As you know, Cameron, as we talked about during our production meeting the other day, the theme of the week is having fun, and so the jewel today is an open mind, a loving heart, and action are ingredients for the recipe for having fun.
All right.
All right, so let's go out there and have some fun. Go make a snowman.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cameron. Great job as usual. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
Ned, we missed you. And Damon, we appreciate your jumping on and being a part of this as well. And you all for joining us as well.
Thanks,
And with your
everybody.
great observations during our question of the day. We appreciate you. Go out there, have some fun, and be good to each other. Aloha.